Hey, I've got a bit of a cold, but I wanted to try and migrate from SFML 2.6 to 3 because this migration guide came out 2 days ago, and I just want to try and do it basically. So I think the first thing to change would be CMake because they've changed the targets. So, like here where we have SFML graphics and audio, it's now got a namespace on it. So they've got this actually. They've got the examples. So when you find the package, it finds those, but now it finds SFML3, capital letters, and namespace stuff. So I don't think I need to change this apart from put it on master and change this to SML : graphics, and same for audio. Because I'm not actually doing find package at all. I probably should, but actually no, I don't need to because I think the add package from CPM actually does that. So I think that's all with CMake. I'll come back to that though. I'm gonna do a CMake thing right now, quickly. Actually, let's not do it here. Let's do it in the actual game build. Oh, I suppose it's probably because it's trying to look for vmaster, and obviously vmaster's not a thing. So it probably does need to be a hash. Yeah, there you go. It's looking for master now. Oh, and also what they said was SFML builds a static library automatically now. I can't find where it is. I read through this before when it came out, because when I'm setting, I think it was this. I think it was one of these two. They set it to. I think it was this. They set it to off by default now, so SFML by default builds statically, which is good. I like static builds, static libraries. But yeah, so this does do it just fine. So now if we open it in Rider, it will give us a bunch of errors and stuff. I did add a little bit after the last video. I decided to add these types. Turns out don't need them because SFML is getting rid of their types. Yeah, here. SFML2 uses like their own SF ints and stuff, but SFML3 is just using the std int standard library. So let's just update this. Really, don't need that. And yeah, oh yeah, so here you go. This is an example of where it's because the enums are now scoped, so they're enum classes, or but thingied instead of just plain enums. Yeah, so before they were like this, but now they're like enum classes. So they're scoped, meaning you got to have the prefix on it. I'm probably going to make this enum class at some point, but anyway, this is just going to be uint8t because we can include the cstd int. I get uint8t because this is just a type def of unsigned char. That's all good. These should all work fine. Yeah, still. So let's just go from the top. So the vector2 parameters, scalar parameters and stuff. So this is just, instead of having two overloads, one for two floats and then one for a vector, you just have the vector. And then you use the initializer list for the two floats, which I think is quite good. So that does mean I'm going to have to go through and find any instances where I don't use an initializer list, which is probably most of them. shouldn't be that hard, right? It'll probably be in here most of the time. Yeah, so yeah, there'll be quite a lot of stuff because the bowl event has changed and stuff as well. Yeah, SF event. So SFML3 uses STD variant under the hood, as spotted here. Actually, no, this is an optional. Never mind. It uses a variant for to know which event is the current one. If I go into the event here, you have structures for each event, and then I assume these structures are just stored in a variant. Yeah, these are all the structures, and the data is the variant. With the events, we don't want to create a thing here, we can just create it on the fly here. And so this will be the event. It's an optional. Yeah, so we're testing for if the optional has a value in this while. If it does, then it seems like I'm going to have to abandon my call switch statement, unfortunately. I suppose it doesn't really matter. The ifs are probably going to be optimized anyway, but it's nice to use the switch. So if the events, if EV is, then we can say event closed. Then we can kill the engine. So instead of checking the case, we say if it's this, and then kill it. So that does seem quite nice, because before you would say if ev.type is equal to this, or just do a switch case. But now you can just say if the EV is this, or you can say key pressed get if. So you get the structure if it is it. So if you need the structure, then you can get it as well. So for something like resized, maybe do an else if. Also, it's using a pointer. Resize will equal EV get if SF event resized. Okay, that's why it's a pointer. Okay, so this returns a pointer, obviously, because get if it's not there, then it will be null, meaning the if will fail. So in this if, you know it's valid, and then you can say, you know, like calculate internal aspect ratio or something, and then resize size or something like that, you know, that kind of thing. So that seems fair enough, very interesting, and also very very simple. Now there does seem to be a handle events thing where you can have some kind of callback, which also looks very interesting. But I don't think this is... I find this would just be too much work for simple things like this. If you have large things that need, you know, to be done via events, then this seems like a very good way to do it. But I don't. So yeah, let's do this, sure. Size.x. So size is just a vector 2 now. Whereas before it was some kind of size structure. And also vector 2s, they have member functions now for like normalized and length and things, which is very nice. Because I was going to make all of those in my custom vector class, but I don't need to now. So I can just make that vector class a serialization thing, which is very nice. So I'm going to refactor that probably. So then we've got Windows styles and states. I can probably get rid of this. I don't need the Yeah, I don't need this switch anymore. We have this as well. The video mode is expecting what? Effect to you. Yeah, is that not? Oh, it's because before it was just expecting an unsigned int for the x and an unsigned int for the y, whereas now it's expecting an actual vector 2. There we go. And now back here you go, set size is going to be a vector 2, not just a plain 2 floats. Create is not a thing anymore. I'll come back to that. Viewport rect is going to expect yeah, vector 2s. So we can say that and that. And then obviously width is not a thing. We instead have the size dot x. Expression result unused, nice. And then the left is going to be the position dot x. Then height is going to be the size dot y. And then top is going to be the position dot y. That is high, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, nice. So now we have is this create, which we can come back to. So Windows styles and states, I'm not using any styles anyway, so that's fine. Although this would be nice to come back to. Full screen modes, interesting. Scoped enumerations, so yeah, this is for, you know, inputs and stuff. They're all scoped now. So, for example, in the input manager, if we go to joystick, it's actually just a namespace. It's just a namespace now. It was a class before, wasn't it? It's just a namespace now. Interesting. Yeah, so it's just a namespace, and the here is the axis is a enum class, meaning we do this. And that's all nice. We have no qualms here either, which is good. The keyboard, yeah, enum class key, so the keyboard is a thing as well. That's all good. Right, now we have our rect full scalar values into 2 vector 2s. Nice. Yes, instead of having a position and a size, you just have position and size being vectors. Then we have an actual SF angle class, which is nice. I mean, you can do degrees and radians and stuff. I don't know if I need that. The entity might. Oh yeah, this needs to be I don't know what the namespace would actually be for this. Shape. Primitive type. There you go. And then we have intersects. That's also something that changed. We have this because obviously get rotation returns an angle now instead of a float. Because I think before it was always in degrees, but now it can be in radians as well. So I don't know how the conversion actually works. Right, okay, so it stores it in radians by default, and then it just does that. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, so it stores in radians internally. So entity, we can just say dot as degrees, and then obviously rotation wants an angle. An angle doesn't have a constructor for radians. Interesting. It doesn't have a constructor for Wait, so can I not just say, like... No, surely. Ah, there's just a constructor. There's like an external constructor thing, so degrees, and then it takes in a float. This degrees thing is... It just makes an angle with a... Okay, that's why. That's why it's a friend, because... That's why these two functions are friends. Because there is a constructor, it's just private. So only these two functions can access it. Okay, that makes sense. So the angle, that's all good. And then renamed functions. So some have been renamed, like font from load from file to open from file. So that will be the assets and stuff. Wait, why is font the only one to change? Why is font not load from file still? If sound and stuff are load from file, like texture, like font asset isn't that anymore, but texture asset is. Why is the font asset why are fonts the only one to change from that? Interesting. There's probably some kind of thing for it, but... So, the texture create thing is actually called resize now. If I can go back to the engine. Resize the render texture. And we can do this. And this is a no discard. Interesting. So I have to check if it's successfully resized or not. So if it hasn't resized, we can do an error and say something like failed to resize internal render texture. Or something like that. Okay, that's nice. This yellow thing is saying unchecked access to optional, even though we're checking it here. Oh well. Removal of default constructors. The removal of constructors of these were removed. They can be replaced by the corresponding constructors which accept a resource type. Aha. So that means that these objects must have a resource type. So now that these classes are guaranteed to be holding a reference to their corresponding resource type, the functions used to access those resources can return a reference instead of a pointer. Because before, they had a pointer because you might have a sprite without a texture. But now a sprite cannot be without a texture. You have to have a texture when you have a sprite. Obviously this doesn't affect the entity because the entity uses its own vertex array for this stuff instead of a texture, a sprite even, so I can just separate the texture from the vertex array. But for other things, like for example the audio manager here, we have sound and music, well sound mainly, which wants a buffer. And obviously, we aren't giving it a buffer. what is this? Unused result. Oh, it's a no discard. And this is saying we can't do it because default constructor is deleted. So yeah, we need to have some kind of constructor for this sound do a thing, or make my own sound thing, which is interesting. So some kind of rewrite for that is going to have to be in order. I can probably just comment it out and ignore it for now because I'm not actually using the audio manager, but it's just something to keep in mind. Then we have std optional. Yeah, so obviously that's to avoid using a boolean as a return, or instead of returning -1 kind of thing. You start with the event. And then fixed with integers for the standard library, new constructors for loading resources. So the following classes gained constructors for allowing that allow for loading/opening resources in a single expression. Upon failure, they throw an SF exception. These things. So I am just going to, I don't know. SFML3 still supports the SFML2 style of error handling in addition to these new constructors. Wait, so you can have a, oh wait, no, that's the sound buffer load from file stuff. But the actual like resource types, like sound buffer, you can just load it straight from a file, which is quite good. So I'll have to have a think about how I want to redo the asset manager or asset cache, because chances are I'm going to have it so that there's some kind of shared pointer where you just let the default SF asset or whatever manage its own memory, and then just when you load one of these, when you call this, the resource will look into the asset cache, check if this specific file is already loaded. If it is, just get that from memory, but if not, load it or something. I don't know. There's also utility functions, nice, length, normalized, angle to, and just angle, and then rotated by, and stuff like that. That's quite good. As well as vector 3. I didn't actually realize that SFML had a vector 3 type, so that's quite cool. Threading no longer exists because the standard library is good enough. Deprecated APIs. Yeah, so capture is for like taking a screenshot of the current state. You just use a texture for that instead. And then quads, yeah, the primitive types and stuff, these can just be used for other things. The quads can just be used for 2 triangles. All good stuff. And then other minor changes, SFML3 indicates very small changes still to be mentioned. Reverted to default value of CMake's build shared libs. Yeah, so static libraries by default. Change the SF string interface to use U16 string and U32 string. Removed context settings constructor in favor of aggregate initialization. Interesting. I don't actually know exactly what that means, but I don't use context settings, so don't really care. Removed view reset in favor of the assignment operator. Added new coordinate type enumeration. Removed vertex constructors in favor of aggregate initialization. Renamed mouse button X button 1 and 2 to extra 1 and extra 2. Okay, so that's all the SFML3 stuff. I suppose I just play it and see if we get any errors. Obviously we will here, but I'm going to comment this all out because we don't need it at the moment anyway. So entity, yes, actually there was a thing with the rect, right? The rect we have, yes, okay. 2 overloads of intersects has been replaced with one unified function called find intersection, which returns a optional rect. This optional contains the overlapping area if the rectangles overlap. Interesting. So instead of intersects, which would return a boolean if they overlap, and then I assume having another intersects which will return the actual bounds. Instead, you just have find intersection, which wants another float rect. So obviously we'll just have get global bounds. And then this is, yeah, so we'd need to obviously, that's kind of if on this, return true if it's true, and then return false if it's false. So then, we can use this actual rect value if we want, but I probably won't. Yeah, so I'm thinking in these assets here, we follow on the SFML constructor style, where we have a constructor instead of a load function, which loads it, but it queries the cache to if it's already in memory or not, kind of thing. But I don't know. So let's just go to main and see what we can do here. Obviously, this keyboard, we need to have a key and then do that. But this is now saying that these are not considered because the code isn't int. That's a bit of a bad thing, because we now need to make more overloads for things. I was also thinking taking this and just making every single key scalar, because currently in here we check if it's pressed, if it's not scalar, but that's on a key axis, which should always be scalar. So I'm thinking I'm going to refactor this. I might just do it now, actually. Yeah, I'll do it now. So everything is going to be scalar. You will always have a scalar like value. It's just, it will default to 1. So let's do that. Scale multiplier will just be 1, and then there will be a dead zone as well. Just because why not? So then the is pressed can just result in checking if it's pressed or not. No, the is pressed will result in if the scalar value is greater than the dead zone. And, or yeah, is active probably is a better name for it, because we want to be able to have the scalar amounts and be able to have not necessarily checking if it's pressed or not, but more, well actually no, the get scalar amount could check if it's pressed. Could do that. So if I have a function for the get scalar amount, and then in is pressed here, we can do that. We can say you know, if it's pressed, then return the scalar multiplier. Yeah, the scale multiplier. And just the same thing for these, really. Obviously we're going to have to break as well after these. And here we can just say return 0. But then obviously we're going to have to be able to tell if the input is from a controller button versus a controller axis, which we can probably do via the constructor. Which will have the isScalar variable once again coming in, where we say if we scalar if we're scalar, then we do this, but if we're not, then we do that. So we're going to say if, I don't know, SF joystick get access position on 0 and code, which we can do. We can say if it's equal or 0 to dead zone. So we can say, can return the position. Multiplied by scale multiplier. This will have to be multiplied by 0.01 because that's got to normalize it or whatever. Now this code is obviously saying you can't convert that to a joystick axis, so you've got to do static cast to that, really. Yeah, nice. So then obviously in here we can say is scalar equal to false. Obviously we're going to need our in scale multiplier as well, which will just be 1. The dead zone that can probably just be added per axis thing. And then is scalar will be done, whatever. So here we could say obviously S key in device static cast to an int from the axis. Put the scale multiplier is scalar true. Then obviously need to be the SF keyboard key, which we then obviously need to include the keyboard here as well. We also don't need to set this to false in the ones that are false because it's false by default. So only in this constructor do we need to set it to true. And maybe in the mouse button one as well. Or in the mouse wheel one. So now we need to check if it's scalar in the mouse, which we can just say, actually this is pressed, shouldn't exist anymore. Check if it's scalar in the mouse, which will be if is scalar, do that, but else do this check. So if it's scalar, say if mouse get position, no. How do I get the wheel value? Can I not get the value of the mouse wheel? No, okay, I think that has to be done via events. Okay, never mind, we won't do the scalar check for the mouse. We won't have this mouse wheel one. So I think that's all we need to support for now. Then say if it's active or not. I guess let's just copy the is active from down here. Also, this should just be the raw one, so it shouldn't be checking against the dead zone. We should try to just return axis position. Just do that. And then here we return whether the get scalar amount is greater than or equal to the dead zone. But this needs to be absolute. Okay, nice. So we have it's active and stuff. So when a button is pressed, it just sets scalar to the scale multiplier, meaning 1. And of course that's going to be over the thing, so it's going to return true if it's active or not when it's pressed. That should basically work just fine. And now here we don't need this axis mapping, we just need actions. And so all of these axis things can be gotten rid of. Is pressed, we just need is active instead. Is axis, get axis value. Is action active. Get action scalar value. So, if action doesn't exist, return 0, then just do the same thing that was happening up here, really. Okay, cool, that seems to work fine. Obviously we don't need this anymore. We don't need this either. Actually no, is action pressed should be replaced with is action active. Nice. Don't need the add action axis mapping, don't need to add this axis mapping. Don't need this. And all is good. So now we have just actions, they are scalar. Yeah, that's all good. So now here, instead of saying key axis, you could just say key for all of them. Actually, this should be -1, but these don't need to have anything. And key, here we go. This should just be action mapping. So get action scalar value has one parameter, but it's called with 2 arguments. Oh, wait, is that move having 1 parameter? Because it's a vector now. There we go, so that should hopefully work. We don't need this anymore. Don't need keyboard either, or joystick. Because these include them in the header. Nice. So that's all good. Now what happens if we run it? It's going to compile the stuff. Also, I believe SFML now uses mini audio or something on the back end for the audio instead of OpenAL. I think it failed. So external libraries, mini audio, yeah. Mini audio is audio playback in capital library in C, single source file. Nice. MIT, okay, sick. So this seems better than, well, it seems more like, open than OpenAL. Windows, Mac, Linux, FreeBSD, Android, Web. Nice. That's pretty cool. So that means we don't need the OpenAL DLL anymore. Can I convert one argument float? Where is this level? So rotation. The rotation, I should probably just change this to an SF angle. Then change this to an SF angle. Then Z is equal to degrees. That. So now whenever we spawn something in main, actually never mind, what's going on here? Oh, padding. Apparently, oh, of course, float rect dot position dot x, float rect dot position dot x. This is supposed to be y, it's the top. Bottom is size dot y, right is size dot x. That's padding, and then vertical container also has a thing where it just needs to be a newly constructed object. And then widget text also has something wrong in the constructor. mText is not initialized. Oh, obviously, because mText requires a thing. I might just change this out for glyphs then, because I think I want to be able to have latent, stuff. So yeah, I'll change it out for glyphs. So I'll get rid of this text for now. So we won't be able to see any text, but this is actually going to be very annoying. Let's not do that. Oh, it's going to be a bit of a refactor, isn't it? Okay, well, apart from the text, we have our level again, where, here we go, our rotation needs to be an angle. This needs to be an angle. Put it into degrees. Okay, so our text. Let's quickly look up. Right, custom text. Make your own text class. If text is too limited, already pre-rendered stuff. Font provides everything. You can retrieve the texture with the texture which contains all the pre-rendered glyphs at a certain size. Okay, it's important to note that the glyphs are added to the texture when they're requested. There are so many characters that they can't all be generated when you load the font. Instead, they're rendered on the fly with get glyph. To do something meaningful with the font texture, you must get the texture coordinates of the glyphs. So we can get a glyph, the character, the size, and the boldness. The character is the UT32. Okay, let's quite simply begin doing stuff. Our text, we want to, instead of having an SF text, we want to store. Actually, I want to see get glyph is, yeah, unsigned int for character size. Say unsigned int character size can just be what, 8 by default. It's not used. It also wants the character, which is fine, and it also wants the thing as well. If it's bold or not. The code point. Outline thickness equals 0. Yeah, I do have outline thickness, let's say. Outline thickness can just be 0. If it's bold or not, we can have that as a boolean as well. And then the actual code point, which will have to be done via something else. So the set text and get text, we just need an SF string for the inner text. Let's just call it m_string. Here we can say m_string is equal to text. Yay. And just return m_string. Set the font. We could just set the font to be that. This is saying it's copy, doesn't really matter. Get the font. Character size. Character size will equal size. Return it. Return character size. Set line spacing. Do that in a sec. Set letter spacing. Do that in a sec. Set fill color. Do that in a sec. Set outline color. Do that in a sec. Set outline thickness. Do that, and then outline thickness. Set style. What even is this style? Oh, regular, bold, italic, underlined, strike through. Let's replace these with set bold or not. And then change it back to style later if we need to. Sure, get bold, whatever. And now obviously we need to draw stuff, so how do we do this? Get size as well, so it has to be something. So how do we draw the text? Character is the UTF-32 code for the character's glyph you want to get. You're supposed to specify the character size and whether you want the bold or regular version of the glyph. Glyph structure contains text direct, texture coordinates. The bounds contains the bounding rectangle of the glyph. Advanced horizontal offset to apply to get the starting position of the next glyph in the text. You can also set some of the font's other metrics, such as kerning between two characters or the line spacing. So the font has line spacing. So can I just say, font? No, okay, that'll be guessing the line spacing. Okay. So how do we actually draw it? Well, it seems like you need to get the glyph. There's a get info. What does this yield? Oh, family, okay. Get the glyph, get underline position, underline thickness, get the liter. Okay, so get the glyph. This will have a code point. So I assume we then need to do a loop through all the strings. Oh wait, you can do a thing. Char 32. So we can then say string char, maybe, character size, if it's bold or not, and the outline thickness. So you can get the glyph like so. This is just a glyph structure, which we can then use to draw something. So that's our glyph. We can do target.draw, and we want a drawable. So you probably want to create a texture or a sprite or something. Let's do a vertex array and call it character. And this will just be a primitive type of triangle strip. We want 4, and we want to set the characters. Well, we want to set its first thing, the position, to I can't remember. I think it's 0 is top left, 1 is bottom left, 2 is top right, 3 is bottom right. So 1 would be 0 and whatever the glyphs. TextDirect dot size y is. That's going to be an int, so we've got to say static cast to a float. We can do the same thing here with 2, but change it from that. We can say the size dot x and 0, and then here we can just say both. And then we simply draw the character vertex array. States dot texture being the underscore font dot get. Should I do a const thing? Oh, this is const. Okay. Can we just do this instead then? No, we can't. How do we set the texture of the render states then? Hang on, entity. The entity does this. When we draw the entity, what happens? Wait, what? We can do it here. Why can we do it here? Why am I able to set the texture to a get of a shared texture asset, but not from here? Is it because I'm not including font asset? I am including font asset. So it knows that it derives from SF font. Let's comment that out for now. So this will do that. We then obviously need to put the texture on it, but that will be via this. And then the glyph also has bounds texture rect. I think, is that just it then? We just go through every character. We get the glyph for that character. We create a vertex array for that character to display it. We put the texture on it, and then we pass it all through. Actually, this texture rect and stuff, this all needs to be this needs to be the texture coordinates instead. Actually, don't know why I'm setting the position. The position of each one should instead be like some sort of size instead, but we can obviously do the color of it as well and things. So I don't know about outline color, but we can have a color. Should either be white by default. Letter spacing, line spacing, that can just be, you know, done in this for loop still. Let's just let's get rid of these, we don't need them. And then outline color we're not going to support for now. Because the outline thickness is just this, and the outline thickness is being used here. But how do we check? How do we set the outline color? I don't know. So let's get rid of the outline color for now. And then this, the size, we're going to need to do a loop to get the total size of the string. The loop of the string, add up all of the bounds. So we can say bounds plus equals string char dot, no, what am I doing, fonts, get glyph of string char, character size, if it's bold or not, outline thickness, and then say dot bounds. Dot size. There we go. Now we could just return the bounds dot size. We could just have get bounds actually instead of get size or whatever, but whatever. Let's make it a vector 2f instead. Call it size. Cool. Obviously we can say if the font doesn't exist, then return null optional. Set text to be text. Set character size to be 8. Although character size is already like that, so that's fine. And this text is already like that, so it doesn't really matter. So good. We can have a custom one actually. We can say SF string text. Character size, that kind of thing. Have a default one as well. Okay, let's see if this works. Hopefully. Oh dearie me. Default library conflicts with use of other libraries. Use no default lib library. So literally everything is failing to link. I don't remember how I fixed this before. I'm going to stop recording and have a little look. And see you later or something. Okay, so there's some kind of like mismatch thing happening. Because it says it's a linker error. And there's no, it's something with the runtime library. Or standard library or something like that. And it says something about the value static debug doesn't match the value dynamic debug. So something is linking statically, but it wants to link dynamically or vice versa. So it seems like this error can occur when you are statically linking your project with a library, typically a file with .lib, but the linker setting in your Visual Studio project are set to dynamically link, meaning it will want to go for a DLL but can't. To define that, you need to use that. So, wait, didn't I set this before? No, this is something else. So, hang on. We go for this. Where is it? Code generation in C++. The runtime library. So it's looking for the DLL. Yeah, this is the one that I changed this in another thing, in another video, and I was confused as to why it suddenly started working, because I was pretty sure that I didn't actually change anything, or I changed it, it still didn't work, changed it back, and then it started working again. But now for some reason it's not. I don't know. I could probably look at the CMake lists for this, but this shouldn't need to change because Tails Engine covers everything there. So let's see if this works. No. What about this? The code generation. Debug without the DLL, and then look at what this is. This is debug without the DLL. So obviously something in Tails Engine is doing DLL. So if we do, let's say, what's this? Runtime library. Yeah, MSVC runtime library. I looked at this before, and it seems to not work. Let's try again. Let's just try again. So, okay, we can put it up here. After this, actually, we can say a set property target to be target's Tails Engine. The property will be the MSVC runtime library. We'll set it to Oh, I still need to understand generator expressions. Multi-threaded. Multi-threaded, and then if config debug, then we say debug. I think. My problem with this is there doesn't seem to be like an else thing. It's saying if config debug, if this bit is true, then do this bit, but what if it's not true? I don't know. This property is initialized in the this property is not set. It uses the default value DLL to select an MSVC runtime library. Okay. Let's just copy and paste this to make sure it is correct. And now if we close this, we do a little bit of a sneaky build, then we can just open it again and see what happens. Go into Tails engine here, I'll debug, code generation, that's good. This is debug DLO, so we'll see if this fails. Okay, it does. So if we set this to not dynamic, then it works, and we have our thing, and the input works still, and that's all good. Oh man, and it just works. Brilliant, we've successfully converted the SFML2 project to SFML3. That's brilliant. This is very good. This is very good. I'm very happy. Yeah, successful thing. Of course, the text isn't actually being drawn or anything. Well, it is getting drawn, it's just not. It's just this isn't actually doing anything, so need to work that out still, but I think I'll end it for now. Because that's all I really wanted to do, was convert it from 2.6.1 to 3. Because now it's on the master branch, we can, report bug issues and stuff. So thanks for watching this epic conversion video. Saying that, I want to quickly test the controller as well. Which, yes, it does work. Brilliant. It all works nice and smoothly. And everything's brilliant.